Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. Well, I'm William, and I'm here to present Otterscan. Oops. So first of all, what is Otterscan? Simply put, it's a block explorer that you can actually run at your home. And that's how it looks like. But we decided to take a different approach on how it's implemented compared to other block explorers in the market. We didn't just want to implement another block explorer, but we wanted to make it like a real DApp, and in the process solve some of the issues that other block explorers have. Let's take a quick look at each one of these problems. The first one is the classic Otterscan is down. We all want decentralization, but the inconvenient truth is that we are very dependent on centralized closed source systems. That's a big issue. Otterscan relies on Argon, which is an archive node implementation that takes over 2 terabytes of disk space and is able to sync mainnet in less than 1 week, depending on your hardware. Also, the required hardware is not so expensive, so compared to other implementations, you can actually run at your home, and that's all you need. Otterscan itself is a React app, and it connects to Argon to obtain all data that it needs. There's no need to install additional software, no need to configure external databases or other kind of middleware. And since everything is local, your only requirement is to have a working internet connection, so your node is always up to date with the rest of the network. Issue number 2. I just said that all you need is an Argon node, but not the entire truth. Because the standard APIs lack a lot of features, many of them we need for Otterscan. For example, there is no easy way to get all transactions made by a given address. And as we can see, many people from communities have complaining over and over about those limitations. So we implemented custom APIs inside Argon to enable these non-standard info to be extracted from your nodes. And these APIs can be used by any Argon user, so not only we solved our problem, but we also contributed something back to the community. And these APIs are building inside Argon, starting from version 2.29, which was released last year. So if you have a recent Argon installation, you are good to go. You just need to enable a flag, initialization flag. Now let's take a look at an example. Here's the OTS get contract creator method. It allows us to get the address who created the contract, and also the transaction when it was created. It also works very well with the player contracts. Another example here is the OTS get transaction error, which is self-explaining. It allows us to get the error message on failed transactions. And there are many other methods that support all the requirements that we have in Otterscan and could be useful for you, so I invite you all to check our documentation on GitHub. Issue number 3, we don't rely on closed source data. A block explorer needs more than just one chain data. For example, for displaying token icons or decoding 4 bytes data. We only use open data sources, like we get the icons from Trust Wallets, and we use the open source 4 bytes database from the Ethereum lists project. Even the price conversion comes from on-chain info. We get them from the Chainlink feed, so you don't need to rely on external APIs. Another issue is the source verification. For source verification, we use Sourcefy, which is an open source, decentralized open database for contract verification data. You can download it from IPFS. You can keep a copy for yourself. It's totally permissionless. This is an example showing the deposited contract. It reads the contract metadata from IPFS. And this is the NIF2 deposit transaction. Note how the ABI, which comes from the metadata, is used to decode the transaction parameters. So what is the current status of the project? We are a community project supported by the Argon team and Gitcoin grant donors, which allows us to keep working on it. We've been organically growing in popularity over time, but we are still not feature complete. There are lots of features that still need to be implemented. So now I'd like to show some of the features and challenges that we are being worked on. So there will be some alpha. All data that Otterscan uses today is taken from the Argon database. However, we now need higher level data that's not directly available from it. So what are the possible solutions for it? The most obvious solution is to migrate to use some kind of external indexer, but there are a few problems with that approach. The first one is having to rely on some kind of RPC interface which is slow, like JSON-RPC, or maybe gRPC could be a little faster, but still it needs this inter-process communication. Another problem is how to handle reorgs. The indexer needs to be aware of reorgs, otherwise it will show incorrect data. Another issue is you need to set up some additional middleware. But, well, I think you can see that that approach would not work, and that's the exact reason why I started Otterscan as an alternative solution to other explorers. Our target user is the home user, but keeping a useful node infrastructure at home is becoming harder and harder over time. So again, we are trying a different approach. Argon has a sync lifecycle based on specialized stages. We are adding a set of custom sync stages inside Argon. That way, we are integrating an indexer inside the execution layer and solving all the pain points. It's still a work in progress. The code is not published yet, but I've been publishing some intermediate results on Twitter, like that one, with a token indexer which works in real time. So as soon as a block is added, it scans for new token deployments. So far, I've made a set of custom stages which can identify ERC20 tokens, NFTs, minimal proxies, also token holdings. So giving a certain address, you can determine which tokens has some balance associated. And also we have an indexer for transfer between address, and now that is paginated by transactions. And as I said before, all these new indexers will be available for any Argon user out of box. I intend to publish a first alpha of these indexers in a few weeks, so please keep an eye on our Twitter account for news. And that's it. Thank you very much. Questions?
All right, do we have any questions for William? Do you have any questions? Yep, right over here.
William, good stuff. Thank you for building this. So my question is, how do you see collaboration between this part of kind of Otterscan and like other explorers? Like, do you think that can be some like interfaces between components of like indexer, I don't know, UI, maybe some Like not only right now, like most explorers rely on some like JSON RPC, right? And it's standardized. But also we have some other components, right? Like smart contract verification, indexing services, you know, like NFT, metadata indexing, and so on, right? So will be great to have some, I don't know, components which other explorers can plug in, right, and use it because you know I'm working on also in this field on Block Scout, which is open source explorer, and we hope to see you know more components to be used in different explorers as well. So like back to the question is like how do you see it integrated with other explorers? Like, do you want to work from your side to be included as a part of indexer of other explorers, for example? Or you just like, okay, guys, take it, that's how I developed it, and so on?
Well, let's see. I think eventually we will extract some of the components that we use in Otterscan. We already use a lot of external components like other open databases, but we also plan to eventually spin off some components like our indexer could be something that could be isolated from Argon eventually, and that could attract other projects to use it. But that's not the number one priority. This is something that I think if the component is good enough, it will happen naturally. So I'm not that worried about it right now. I'm more concerned about making something that works in a reasonable time and does not consume a lot of disk space. So we can keep Otterscan as something that home users can run at home.